This chapter is just going to be an awesome, fun chapter of taking movies and scenes and things that we know and putting weird music and playing with the scene, playing against the scene, and figuring out, gosh, does this work? Does this not? And maybe giving a whole different interpretation of a scene just because we changed that emotional architecture. It's going to be a great reference. You can go back to it all the time and go, oh yeah, that's why that didn't work, and that's why that did work. Let's roll. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I've got a whole bunch of fun little clips that we're going to go through. Some of these you may have seen, these movies. And we've gotten a bunch of music from MusicBed, the music library, excellent music library company. And we've just done some searches and found clips that are music clips that they have in their library that are reasonably similar, if not remarkably similar, to the score that was ultimately placed in the movie. And we're just going to go through them, and I'm not going to try to change your mind or manipulate you into believing that one cue is better than another. I'll just kind of let you see what you think. I'll give you some ideas about it, kind of see what I'm noticing, and then you make up your mind as to which one you might like to play over the scene. And then we'll listen, of course, to the original. This is the initial fight scene with John Carter, which we looked at earlier. Let's check it out. So here it's, general action. Our heroine gets the sword, lots of chopping, lots of danger, and this kind of thing. Then there's some dialogue. Super, a reaction, some comedy, and then you're on your way. So pretty simple stuff, really, but not so simple if you have to make the music or make the choice to which music you should play. So this is Bugs Bunny Carrots. Check it out. See how it plays for you. And you have dialogue. So we're obviously listening to previews. These are just MP3 previews. And if you're listening on a good set of speakers or headphones at all, you'll hear all the weird, nasty compression artifacts that are in this music. But we'll show you how to do the workflow on that in a second. So this is a nice action piece. It's highly repetitive. But it works, right? No problem. It's just under a cacophony of sound effects. I'm sure it would work just great. Let's try the next one. This is Kal-El from Ryan Taubert. And that works great too. Notice the difference in feel. What I want you to notice, the whole purpose of this fun chapter is to notice the difference. Yeah, it's action music, but listen to the change in how you feel watching this scene between those two. All right, let's try this one. Secrets of the Flying Gemini. Let's zoom in here. Another one from our buddy Ryan Taubert. Actually, let's go back a little bit. Off she goes. So it's a lot more intense, a lot more harrowing, right? A lot of string effects and things like this. All of these cues work. None of these cues don't work. They're all like, you'd be lucky to have this cue, this music in your movie. Just notice how it feels. And we're going to do a little review here in a second once we get through all this. And this is Godhammer from Blake Ewing. Off she goes. So this is the only example so far that doesn't have percussion looping kinds of things blasting away. And you can hear how, just from a mix standpoint, you would have a lot more space to put sound effects and bring the music up louder without having that percussion mashing in the middle of your sound effects. Nothing wrong with percussion, of course, but just it's a different choice. So let's take a little review here. We've got Mr. Bugs Bunny from Bric-a-Brac. Pretty much is all percussion, bang, 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 bang. And some of it actually conveniently hits the action that's going on there. I like it. It's, again, all these cues are good. For me, I would not have chosen it because it doesn't really hit anything in the scene. It's very, very repetitive. And it's a good choice, perhaps not the best choice. How about this one, Kal-El? This one is very John Adams sounding. Again, it's super repetitive. It's a great sound. It's a lot of energy. Both of these definitely help the scene. I just want something that has a little more motion and emotion to it to help the terror, or the peril rather, not the terror, the peril of the situation. And then here's Secrets of Funk.
Music Bed.
It's a great cue. It's just a little scary. It's a little more peril and a little. It's a little heavy on the peril side. I might choose it over the other two only because it's got some nice differences in color. And if we were to scroll down a little bit, and it kind of gets loud in the wrong place, but we could fix that in editing. And then here, let's go back. Oops, I don't want to move my movie. I like this one. I would probably choose it because it over the other three, because it's not getting in the way of my all the action that's going on there. It shows that it's difficult. We hear the theme if it were a melody that we knew, and it's got a nice harmonic thing going on there. And if we continue down a little bit. A little more thematic element in there that we could use maybe as he took off. Or maybe as she took off. In fact, if we started it right as she takes off here. Right there. So we're going to go here. Command K. We'll just kind of go this way like this. A little edit for you. Hooray. She runs off there. I'm a little wrong. Let's go like this. And a little of this. Here we go. Cool. So, it's definitely stuff that fits the background. The percussion comes in there. The thing about music from a library is it can sound really good, as all of these pieces do. They got a really nice full sound. There's no real live musicians in here. This is all what we call out of the box or in the box from a computer. But it doesn't really hit anything. So your creativity in being able to cut and edit library music to hit your scenes is what's going to make you or break you. So in theory, you could take a bunch of these cues and cut them together with your markers and create a really interesting tapestry. I'll show you what I mean. So let's just do a little breakdown here real quick. There's him fighting. Then she gets the sword here. We'll hit a marker. This is just real loose. And then she's done chop from the chop shop. Dialogue, dialogue, dialogue. She's off, like so. So we know this is the dialogue. We want to stay under that. Let's just see what we come up with here. I'm going to start with this. I think that's cool. Then we're going to jump to a different cue for a second. Maybe the Bugs Bunny one might be nice. It's a fun name for it. Doo-doo-doo. I want to put Bugs here. I want to do my crossfade here. Actually, we need to start it here, don't we? Because the action part, we don't need any run up. Isn't it nice that they happen to be both in the same key? Isn't that super helpful? And then let's see, what else can we do? While they're talking, let's see about this one. Dialogue, dialogue, dialogue. Let's do the Kal-El piece. See what happens here. Maybe over here. Yeah, let's have a little fun with this feel, since it is sci-fi and they look sort of regal in their cool garb. If you haven't seen John Carter, I know it got panned, but I liked it. It was fun.
Music bed.
And then maybe we'll go like this and put Secrets of the Gemini in next as she goes and hops off. Actually, where does it ramp up here? Sure. Kind of like this. Actually, where does it get big? Right here. There we go. And we'll cut this. We'll see where the action starts there. And we'll go like this. Beautiful. So, what have we wrought? We took a bunch of different music pieces from Music Bed and smashed them together. Let's see what happens. And they all happen to be in pretty good keys. Isn't that nice?
Music bed.
Jumps. Cool. So, these are 4 different pieces that really have no relation. The composers have no relation to themselves. They just happen to be in 2 different, these 2 are in one key and these 2 are in another. But, and obviously I can sit here and massage these edits, but it kind of works, right? And your creativity with your music library is what's going to make that. No one of these cues was going to fit this scene, those moments, those little 30 seconds, right? We all agree, kind of nice bed underneath that, but we wouldn't do that. We would want to have independent cues. And this is how you as a filmmaker can create your custom feeling score with library music. Now look, the problem with library music in many libraries is that there aren't any stems. If we had stems, we could go crazy. It would be so much easier, right? We would have the percussion and we pull out the orchestra and let the percussion play through here or the dialogue and then bring it back up. We could do our own mix. And some libraries allow that. In this case, Music Bed doesn't. But you get a very large library. That's the nice trade-off. So let's check out what the original was. just so you get the idea. Now, there's dialogue in here. I apologize. That heinous dialogue, but check it out.
Well, maybe I ought to get behind you.
There's the theme.
You let me know when it gets dangerous.
Notice there's no big blasting percussion anywhere in here. The composer made, I believe, the smart choice in not getting in the middle of it, Mr. Giacchino, I believe. And so that's the original. All right, so since you're all tired of hearing that music bed thing going on, how do we fix that? These are the previews. Well, you have to buy the music, get the licenses, okay? Once you get the licenses, you will download full resolution versions, not MP3s, no matter what they offer you. No matter what money they offer you to download their AACs or the MP3s or whatever, you're going to download WAVs or AIFs depending on your system. These are MP3s, and you can tell they're MP3s because of the crunchy, low bandwidth compression. What's going on in there? How do we fix it? Well, in any other digital audio workstation, it's very simple. You would select all the pieces that you have here that you want to mess around with and change, and you would right-click or something to that effect, and you would say link all media, and then you would just tell it where the media is, and you're good to go. Unfortunately, that doesn't work in Audition as of the summer of 2016. What you must do is, let's go to the files themselves. Here we are, the John Carter files. I have all of them here in all of the 4 pieces that we have in an MP3 folder, MP3s. And then the actual waves outside. They're all locked they're all logged here. What you have to do is close your session. Change the name of the folder that your MP3s are in. Open your session. It will, of course, lose track of them, and then you will tell it, please go find these wave files, and that's the only way to do it. If you attempt to go like this and do this kind of number, you will only be able to load one at a time, and it's kind of a pain. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to save. I'm going to close the session. Finder. I'm going to take the folder where those are in. I'm just going to take away the S of MP3s. I'm going to go back here, File, Open Recent. Oh, here it is, John Carter. And it says, aha, hey man, we're missing a bunch of files. Now I can say link media. It says, please find Godhammer. There it is. Unfortunately, when I hit OK, it will not find the rest of them. It says, and where's the next one? It's here. And where's the next one? It's here. And where's the next one? It's here. If you had 50 of these or 100 or 150, you would be doing this on every file. Sorry, but that's how it is. Once it's here, though, it happily links up, and notice the difference in volume and quality. I'm going to pull this down because it's strong now. Beautiful. Sounds exactly like the composers wanted it to sound. All right, let's check out another example. Here's one of the most sad scenes, I believe. I know I'm a sucker, but sad scenes in cinema where Mary McDonnell dies in Independence Day. Oh, I'm just a Mary McDonnell fan anyway, but let's watch it. You guys, if you've seen it, you've known. She's the president. She's the first lady, and the alien struck, and she didn't do what she said she would do. And there's Bill Pullman, the president. She was very, very deeply injured. They can't stop the bleeding, and she's going to die. They're having the conversation where he's lying to her, and he says, you're going to be fine. He's a terrible liar. And she says, liar. And then but they know it's serious. They've just whisked their little girl out. It's very sad. And notice how when you watch this, you don't feel it. You're watching it going, oh, yeah, that's too bad. And here's the doctor who couldn't solve anything. There's Bill. Everybody's like, oh, man, the president. She just died, by the way. And we're moving on. And then he goes to a little girl. Okay, so very, very touching scene. You want to treat this with kid gloves and a surgeon's scalpel. So very, very difficult to do with library music, but you can do when you get it just right. This is Blissful Ignorance from Dexter Britain. So it's nice, right? Definitely gives us a feeling of melancholy. Absolutely. And allows a space for the actors to do what they need to do. Let's try this one. Ember from Tony Anderson. So it's a very, very different feel. But again, melancholy, but it gives us a little bit more humanity in a sense with that vocal. Super nice. Let's try this one. Reckoning from Jenerdine. I'm sorry, I'm messing up their name, but Jenerdine. So this is an interesting choice, right? If you were to choose this, again, a perfectly good piece of music. You'd be lucky to have it in your film. And it has a feeling of heroism, like she's a hero. They're both heroes, or one of them is. It has a thematic kind of powerful sense to it. And there's hope. Feels like there's a little bit of hope in there. Like, you know, if you didn't know the story, if you didn't know the dialogue, you might think that maybe it's a good thing that she's here, or that there's help on the way, or something like that. All right, let's try this one. Rest from Blake Ewing. Another beautiful piece of music. And why you may not have the same emotional response that you had from the other three is that this is what we talked about earlier as counterpoint. It's all melodies everywhere. So it's a lot of truth. It's a lot of thinking. And if these were themes that you knew, you would feel like, oh yeah, I remember them. Counterpoint. It's not my suggestion that you score emotional scenes like this, death and dying, with counterpoint, although it can be done. And you can feel what that does to you emotionally. It feels chaotic. It keeps you from your heart. Forces you from feeling and forces you to think. And it totally changes the scene, right? Nothing wrong with it. It's a perfectly legitimate choice. Just a different vibe. All right, so which one would I choose? Well, you've probably already made up your mind which one you would choose. Would I choose this one? This one's really nice. I just don't like the solo cello. All these, again, are in the box. I think this cello here might be actually a live cello. As with all things, your choice is because you're the director, and this is what you want your audience to feel. And if I wanted my audience to feel sad, like, oh no, we're losing her, I'd choose this one. If I wanted the audience to feel like, oh, we're losing her and that's sad, but she's a hero or there's hope, I definitely choose this one. If I want the audience to not be sure what they're feeling and have them thinking, definitely this one, none of the other ones. And this one? This one's very simple. It has the emotional feel of almost childlike, which I'm not sure applies to Mary McDonnell because she's one of the most powerful actors we have. But it could work. It could create that simple response. Let's take a listen to what our man David Arnold did.
I'm so sorry that I didn't come home when you asked me to.
It's okay. The doctors think that you're gonna be just fine.
Liar.
Now, look, I don't actually agree with all of David's choices here. I think he made a couple mistakes emotionally, but let me point out a couple things. There's nothing wrong with any of these library music. Again, you'd be lucky to have them in your picture. But there's a huge emotional impact difference if you're doing these kinds of scenes with synths or in the box versus in a live orchestra. All right, I get it. You're not going to afford $10,000 an hour to record your orchestra. I get it, of course, and that's why we have synths. And they're getting better and better, but they are still nowhere near the power and the emotional pull and nuance of a real live orchestra. And just keep that in mind first. Second, check out how happy he gets. He goes to these major keys in these strange moments, but notice what it does to you. Of course, he does it on the comedy when she says liar. But when they embrace, he goes happy, almost like this piece did down here, adding hope to it. I wouldn't have done that, but boy, does it work.
It's fine.
Liar.
There's your comedy. Like it's a big happy resolution when we cut to the hallway, almost like it's a release from the bondage of that difficult scene, which is sort of how it feels. Anyhow, interesting stuff, right? And in here, there's no big brass, there's no percussion, there's no piano, there's no percussion, there's no looping. It's just strings and woodwinds, the very lyrical instruments of the orchestra. In this very important scene in Inception, we've got our hero trying to recruit our heroine to do a special dreamscape job for him. And he's explaining. It's exposition. Blech, exposition. And it's the enemy of all music because that's what people use music for, to try to cover up the fact that exposition's boring, man. But even Leonardo DiCaprio can make exposition interesting, and we want to help him with that music. And this, of course, is a Hans Zimmer score. But let's see what we've got from Music Bed. This is Last Night from Mode. Now, you may be like, wow, that's really loud. There's a lot going on there. Trust me, when we get to the mix volume, you'll see how you can EQ that and get it so that it's not affecting the dialogue at all. It's a beautiful piece of music that really adds kind of the ethereal mystery and beauty. There's a sense of beauty to it, isn't there? In just the production value, that it's adding interest to whatever it is he's saying. And if you haven't seen Inception, I recommend it. This is On a Reprise from Ryan Taubert. Check out this. Right? It's cool. It's happy. You're certainly in a major key, and it's almost like this is good information. Yay, let's get this. And it's action. It's certainly having time compression happen in the scene because of all the percussion that's going on. It's lovely. Let's try Diana from Tony Anderson. So cool. Again, beautiful bed that goes underneath exposition. And in exposition, we don't want to write crazy, awesome, drawing attention to itself kinds of music. We wanted to create time compression to move that dialogue forward, that storytelling, that information. And this creates a nice neutral feel. Let's try the next one. Anakata from Mode. That loop definitely adds a sense of urgency. Gotta go, gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. And again, a nice neutral harmony and feel. Let's check out what our buddy Hans did in Score of Inception.
It's almost creating itself, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, like I'm discovering it.
Genuine inspiration, right? Mm-hmm. Now, in a dream, our mind continuously does this. We create and perceive our world simultaneously, and our mind does this so well that we don't even know what's happening. That allows us to get right in the middle of that process.
How?
By taking over the creating part. Now, this is where I need you. You create the world of the dream. We bring the subject into that dream, and they fill it with their subconscious.
How could I ever acquire enough?
And then the cue kind of peters out. Notice it had elements of all of these in there. It had the beat that's going, it had the guitar kind of pulsingness, and then it had the live strings easily doing a nice bed. But it changed with how the actor's moments changed. Notice when the key and the harmony changes.
It's almost creating itself, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, like I'm discovering it.
Genuine inspiration, right? Mm-hmm. Now, in a dream, our mind continuously does this. We create and perceive our world simultaneously.
You hear it? We create and perceive our world simultaneously. That's where he changed the orchestration and changed the key to give the audience a new revelation on this very slow and wonderfully delivered exposition. Let's try a different example. Now, in one of the most powerful scenes from Man of Steel, where Kevin Costner is lost. By the way, how would you like to have both of your dads both be Robin Hood? Right? Wouldn't that be cool? Kevin Costner was Robin Hood, and our buddy Russell Crowe was Robin Hood. That's pretty cool. Anyway, so let's check it out. Watch it. So Kev here is trying to get away from what looks like a Class 15 tornado. Watch out, Kev. The Jeep Grand Cherokee takes it. And this is all terror and suspense, of course, and all of this. This is pretty nominal. Oh, thank goodness we saved the dog. But my ankle's crushed. Fortunately, that Class 15 tornado is going to take me up. And when you watch this without music, again, it's like, oh, that's too bad. And when we get the sound effects and the immersion and everything else, you'll feel, and then, of course, the emotional pull. You're like, oh, no, it's horrible. And we see the panic on their faces, the wide eyes, the stressed eyelids, and then music stops on the hand as we push in with the dolly, and he's taken away. Even though Superman could have saved him, his dad's trying to protect his identity, and that's what we want to emphasize. Okay, so here's our first piece from Music Bed, Rapture Feet from Chris Coleman. Totally works, right? There's nothing about that doesn't work. Here's my concern. Beautiful piece, Chris. Good job. Is look at the level. That concerns me because in the mix, I mean, unless we're doing a trailer and then it's great. I got no dynamic range. It's all just crushed. And since I don't have stems, I need to be careful. And I may want to use an expander or a decompressor plugin to help give that a little more dynamic range, or some kind of attack plugin from Alloy or something like that. Because I'm missing the dynamic cracks that I may want there. But beautiful piece of music, and then it ends beautifully. Let's try Recall from Ryan Tauber. And then it fades out. Another great piece of music. You can kind of hear the influences of John Adams and, of course, how John Adams' music was used in The Matrix. Beautiful. Gives us all the action stuff that we need. Both of these have. And then a nice tail at the end for the emotion. Let's try the next one. Let It Burn from Jennerdine. Sorry. Don't know how to pronounce that quite right. Whew, I gotta go take a nap after that. I trust most of you saw that I was circling down here. This is the most dynamic, non-dynamic piece of music I've heard in a long time. In fact, it's so compressed, you can hear it distorting. That compression is something that we would actually have to use RX on if we were going to use this track and kind of give some dynamic range to it. It's just, you can hear it distorting, and the compression's just a little too much in the world of loudness. Now, if you were releasing on the internet, then hey, man, great. But we don't want to have dynamic range so crushed before we do that compression. Otherwise, we kind of get screwed. Especially here, the low frequencies kind of pulsing and swooshing. Now, as to the content of the music itself, it's very action, right? Very high stakes, probably a little too high stakes for what's happening here. We're missing some of the heart. It's intense. It's beautiful for that kind of thing. It might not be quite the right piece. It would certainly work, but it would skew us more towards an action feel rather than Dad's about to die. Again, a good piece of music. Here we go. Try this one. Honor Reprise from Ryan Tuck. Super, right? It's got a nice theme in there, and you're feeling the heroism. It's hero. He's a hero the whole time. It's great. And if you wanted to play that kind of a hero vibe, you would do that. The melody's great, and it's got the percussion in the building. What it doesn't have, however, I think, is the sense of dread, the sense of terror, the sense of doom, possible doom that Dad could die here. And again, you'd be lucky to have any of these pieces of music in your film. Let's check out what they really did in Man of Steel.
Stay here.
Super great, right? It's so useful. So they got just basically solid percussion happening while cars are being flipped around by our Category 15. And then once he gets into trouble, then we hear the theme, and it's actually an interesting counterpoint with the melody. I know I said not to use counterpoint, but I said that only in the sad bits. This definitely works. Okay. When she goes, Jonathan, or whatever she's saying, I have no idea what she's saying. Then you hear the thing. And it's slow. I mean, the tempo is about 1 and 2 and 3. You'd expect it to be fast, but it isn't. It's really slow to allow the emotion of the lines that the composer wrote to work. It's really, really super cool. Let's check out another example. Now, this is one of the most famous scenes in all of cinematic history for action. It changed Hollywood, this scene, and how we do music. I'm just going to leave this right here. We're going to play VRSN from Solomon Light Helm Check it out. Yeah, you get it, right? Totally works. Here's the problem with getting loop tracks like this. Just like we did in the first example of John Carter. It's so easy and seductive to say, oh, it's cool, I'm just going to leave it in. Don't do it. You want to cut up your looped stuff with either other pieces that have the same tempo or tempo match them or whatever, so that you're scoring or cutting to the action. And we'll see in the original that what they did, how smart they were about it, is cutting music to action. Don't just blast it with a loop. Again, this is a really, really highly compressed track, which would give me pause. I would want to add some dynamics to it. Let's check out Penalty Z. Cool, right? It's a completely different piece of music with a dubstep at 70 beats per minute, right? I don't recommend 70 beats per minute because, again, that's the tempo of sex. Yes! 70-ish or so, 74, I guess it might be in this case. But it works. It's definitely body-driven, lots of energy. I think it might not have the kind of enough energy to support what they're doing. I mean, they're moving really, really fast. But if you had this piece, it would work. It'd be more like badassery, as I'm coining that. More like badassery, and that's cool. Let's check out King Matthew from Parker. King from Matthew Parker. Hair Megiddo. So, again, another dubstep piece, but check out the difference in how that feels. There's a lot more action in the production value of it. It's all the same. There's no harmonic motion, really. It's just effects and things. And I guess I wished in 1998, when they were doing the post on Matrix, that dubstep had been around because it might have been useful. Not for this scene, but for other parts, because it's cool. But hopefully you can feel the difference between that and this. Right? It's cool, but they both have different emotional feels. Let's watch the original. You all know how it goes, but let's watch it anyway.
Morpheus is fighting Neo.
Yeah, like that. Just lots of energy. There's no harmonic motion. Same with all of these. No harmonic motion, no melody, just production and loops. And it's fun and it's adding excitement. But the tempo of this is 120 beats per minute. Work. And they're working. Da, 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 like a march. They're marching at the tempo. And so that's, what's so successful about that. Let's try another example. All right, this is from a thing that I produced and wrote the music for called Blade of Honor. And I just want to see just to show you kind of different feels from Music Bed, from actual music with lyrics, etc. So you can feel the difference between what we did in a custom variety and then what you can get from a library and see how it feels. Okay, so let's just watch it without any music for a second. And here's it's a montage of, showing what the world looks like. And here they go, and lots of fun space bits. We're revealing characters, and here's they are in the cockpit, in the corridor, lots of fun looks and things like this. Without music or sound effects, it doesn't really take you anywhere. You're like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, big deal, so what? But with music, let's try this from Antidote, Mars Ferrer. So it's got a pretty cool feel to it. It's nice and slow. It's at the dubstep tempo again, which is actually the tempo that we did the music for it in the original. It's definite, kind of guile and pushing yourself through and will and that female voice, which is so great. Let's try Giants intro from Medic. Okay, it's very happy. It's in a major key. It's a really cool piece of music. Again, the levels. And I know they meant to do that. It's a very distorted kind of feel, very grungy feel, and it's a good piece of music. It's a good recording, and it just I don't particularly like that kind of mastering. But if you got it in the mix right, and if you had sound effects behind it and you had other things behind it, it could really give a great emotional feel to a trailer or to a promo or to any kind of montage. Let's try In an Age from Z. So this is a great dubstep piece. It's got lots of energy. It would definitely work. It just what's missing here is what I would classify as glue, something that's kind of underpinning, that's getting more energy moving. And that's the problem with dubstep in general. If you're going to use it, you really need to have a lot of production value going on all over the place inside the track. Lots of things in industry hits and just loops and all kinds of stuff happening in there. It shouldn't be open for underscore for underscore at all. Mainly because when you got do, chuka, do, do, chuka, it's very, very hard to get into a mix where it's not competing with everything else. Now, in this case, hey, man, it's just a music video, basically. You're putting music up and some light sound effects and voiceover, and that can work. I just wish for more energy in the track. Perfectly good track. Takes us in a very techno vibe, which since it's sci-fi, it could totally work. Let's try this one. This is Rise Up Against with Mary Ellen. Be careful when you're choosing music, the gender of your singer. Nothing wrong with having either. But remember this, whoever the gender of your singer is who the audience is going to relate with more on screen. You got a female singer, you're going to relate with the females on the screen more. You got a male singer, you're going to relate with the male singers. It changes the audience's point of view. So when we listen to this, you wouldn't know anything about this except that when Anna Akana comes in here, she's the lead character. And you only believe that because there's a female lead in here. A lead vocal is what I mean. But check it out. We listen to the Giants piece. You would think that James Kyson is more the lead character than Anna Akana. Check it out from Mars. And you're like, well, why'd you play it that long? Well, because Jodie Bentley, who's the second woman, has a voice and a look that fits this vocalist more. Anna Akana really doesn't feel like this vocalist because her voice doesn't, she probably could sing that actually. But you don't get that feel. You get, I think, more that Jodie Bentley is the lead. Definitely not James Kyson. So since, in this case, Anna Akana at the time was the lead, we had a female, I chose a female vocalist that reflected her. And here's what we did.
Drop of our blood. We have sacrificed more than we can ever gain.
We may, in fact, lose this war.
And the beat comes in. So anyway, that's some interesting bits about using vocals. Be careful the gender and the tone of your vocalist and make sure that they match, if you can, the lead in, or at least the person that you want to emphasize in the piece. Let's look at one more example. One of the most beloved movies is WALL-E, and I've talked about it earlier in this education. This is such a fun piece, and let's look at some fun music, not so intense, and see how it feels. This is Solutions from Luc. Attention. Totally works, right? It's fun. It's light instruments. There's no real melody to speak of. And it's just kind of rhythm and some fun harmony. I mean, it works. It's just very light and very nice. Let's try this one. This is Libérez comme des enfants. Libérez comme des enfants from Dexter Britain. Again, it works. I'm not a fan of the loops in there, but for this particular piece, they're there. It works. It's light. Notice that it's a very different feel. It has a much slower tempo, so it doesn't have that same light energy. It feels a little more on the ground, if you will. That it gives you that kind of maybe a little more suburbia feel than the Solutions piece did. Let's try this, Feel Young from Luc Attention again. Yeah, totally works. And it sort of has the nice feel of both of these put together, a nice suburbia feel with the piano and family almost feeling, like the Cockroach and Wally are sort of family, and a nice happy fast tempo that seems to be light. Let's check out what our good man Mr. Newman did. Great stuff, right? Saxophone and just pizzicato strings and some weird boingy sounds that are going on in the background that only Tom can get away with. Again, the fast tempo, very light instrumentation, and it just feels great. It doesn't feel suburbia-like. It sort of feels very like it's some one person involved, and in this case, Wally. Also, I'm sure you noticed the music just completely went away once he ran over the cockroach. And if you were to use the library music, you would not want to get seduced into just playing over those moments. You would want to find some hit or punch to get out on and then come back in for sure. And it's great stuff. Lots of fun, right? Just awesome reference to go back to and go, oh yeah, my favorite movies scored wrong. Or my favorite bits or my favorite kinds of scenes scored wrong a bunch of times. So this is the end of the music section. Look, I love talking about music. It's just one of my favorite subjects to talk about. Get on the cinemasound.com blog and let's talk music. Let's talk scenes. Let's talk what you want your audience to feel right now. And let's get the emotional impact that you want your audience to have handled. If you can't do it here, let's do it online. Until then, we'll see you in post.